Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Stock Market Outlook video sponsored by MarketSmith. And overall, we continued up strongly last week off the 50 SMA and 21 EMA confluence on the NASDAQ and closed above the 14,000 level. So things are looking good. We are still below this pivot right here as well as this one right here, but we're getting closer and closer. However, we are a little bit short-term extended, so I wouldn't mind actually a little bit of a pullback. Even below 14,000 and retaking it next week, forming a little bit of a pivot right here. But obviously you have to be prepared for anything, and we could just blast off next week through these highs. So that is the NASDAQ, looks good. And going over to the S&P 500, this also looks quite strong, trending nicely above the 21 EMA after bouncing a few weeks ago. Looking at the IWO, we can bring that up. You can see this also is moving out the right-hand side, still below this pivot, but back above the 50 and 21 EMA, as well as the 300 level, exactly what I was looking for last week. And overall, I love seeing us move past these moving averages and start to build out the right side of this base and hopefully go on to challenge all-time highs. So that is a quick update on the indexes, the main indexes that I look at on a daily time frame. And now let's move on to TC2000 and take a look at my universe list from last week. So overall, ABNB actually wasn't on it, but it was one that I traded. So I bought this oops reversal here through the opening range breakout early on in the day, and it continued to fall through nicely. And I'm watching for a break of this downward trend line. But moving on to my focus list, let's sort by that weekly change. And there you go. Coursera was our best performer. A nice move up last week through these highs, as well as this high volume close right here. That's what I was watching for last week. HYRE also moving up, trending above the 21 EMA, and a little bit of wedging action here. I wouldn't mind a pullback and then a breakthrough, some pivots here. But regardless, a very strong stock since this huge move up on this Friday. So moving on, we've got NEO, a nice move through this pivot, as well as this one right here, and a very strong end to the week on this Friday right here. 3-bar break to the upside, as well as a 2-2 reversal through this high. So really looking at this, you could have bought this inside day and up here. Then we had a move up, then a retest, and then a nice 2-2 reversal to end out the week on very strong volume. It is right as 200-day moving average, so we'll see what happens with that. But overall, a very strong move and kind of a start to the right side of this base. SC, nice move up as well through this pivot, looks pretty strong. Snap, nice move up and close above this pivot. It did have a little bit of a shakeout intraday, probably shook out a bunch of people who bought it early in the morning. But overall, it's still having a little bit of trouble with the 64, 65 level. So that will certainly be of interest next week to see if this can kind of fall through, or will it squat and pull back like it has the past few times. So I'll be watching for that, but we did have nice volume coming in on this Friday. EDR, nice move up, oops reversal here, and then a nice upside reversal on this Friday. So definitely one of interest. If we go to the weekly chart, you could have a 2-2 reversal through these highs next week. And this is a promising young IPO that I'm watching pretty closely. It's got nice sponsorship already, Fidelity Contra Fund with a position. Moving on, we've got PLTR moving up nicely within this kind of pinch here from the highs on the anchor VWAPs. And overall, it was rejected here on this Tuesday, but then a 2-2 reversal to end out the week. So overall, I like how it's acting. It's kind of getting supported here at these levels above 23, which it had, which was resistance prior within the stock's run. So promising action here, showing something here, building a structure, and potentially a move up the right side if it can move through this anchor VWAP from the highs. Calix just kind of trending higher here. Snow had a promising start to the week here on this Monday, but then had a gap down, but a decent strong close. So we'll see what happens next week, but it is still having trouble around this kind of 245, 250 area. PLBY was acting well, nice breakout here, and then nice follow-on action, but then we had a downside reversal. That was your warning sign, although it was on lower volume. And then a gap down and continued sell-off. So it is so far getting support at the 50, but right now the structure looks a little weak and it won't really be in my focus. AMRK just kind of Still pulling back here, not a great end to the week on this Friday, and these 3 down days are on higher volume, so maybe a pullback to the 50s in order, but we'll see what happens if we can kind of form up a reversal next week. SI as well was building out a nice structure, but then had one bar which really just sold off, pulled back to the anchored VWAP from this low, and then it's still not acting right, pulling back below the 200-day on above average volume. UPST as well didn't really recover from this huge downside reversal, the false breakout here through these highs. It had another downside reversal, bearish outside day as it took out both sides of this range and really just pulling back. And I believe it's got lockup expiration coming up soon, so that could be a catalyst. But we'll see how this acts at this level, which was kind of a significant resistance point, and potentially could shift to support. But always remember, it's not support until it's confirmed. And I won't be looking at this too much. I don't like the sell-off on high volume. To me, it just kind of needs time to form up once again. And lastly, we've got DFH, which I was looking for support at this pivot. Nice upside reversal bar on this Friday, but we just didn't get any continuation. We had a gap up and then a very poor close. So this is not a setup that I was interested in after this day. And we did have an upside reversal here, but then once again, expectation breaker, just selling off hard, down 14.75%. This is why even if you do buy it on not really a great setup, you really have to manage your risk with every setup that you take. So that is my weekly focus list. And moving on to the main indexes on a weekly time frame, let's go ahead and go to a weekly chart. Overall, very strong move, continuation off the 10-week moving average, potentially challenging all-time highs. The expectation is sideways or higher. And looking at the spot, and this is in a stage 2 uptrend. Looking at the SPY, once again, a nice trend above a rising 10 and 30-week moving average. Nice stage 2 uptrend, and the expectation is sideways or higher. IWM, nice move up as well, challenging these all-time highs potentially if we do get some follow through. The expectation from this close is sideways or higher, and we are in a stage 2 uptrend. Looking at GBDC, let's go over to that. Nice upside reversal, so some promising action here, and you really want to see this fall through this highs and complete a kind of 2-2 reversal right here through that pivot. Looking at Ethereum, not the greatest action. Bitcoin actually looks a little bit stronger from that weekly close, and we'll see what happens because it's pulling back right to a prior kind of resistance, potential support. So we'll see what happens near this 22 level on this trust. Now moving on to sentiment, we can see that we barely had an increase last week, but we are still pretty high here on this metric, so that does give me some pause. Looking at the bulls versus bears poll, we see it's increasing once again towards that 60 mark. And looking at the put-call ratio, it's still pretty low, but just really within this range that it has been in. Looking at the name exposure index is back up pretty high to 79.65, so we'll see what happens. So overall, sentiment is a little bit heated at this point, but remember, it's always a secondary indicator. Moving on, let's talk about the IBD Big Picture article. The headline is Stock Market Ends Week on an Up Note as NASDAQ Nears New High, Snap Hits New Buy Point. Reading through the article, they talk about Adobe and Snap, which are in buy zones after breakouts. They talk about the strong action in the indexes. The IBD 50 traded up 0.6%, and QFIN advanced 3.7% above this buy point right here. Moving on, they talk about market health a little bit, how it's become a little bit more positive, and they say investors should continue to be on the lookout for buying opportunities, but always stay disciplined and manage risk. They talk about Adobe a little bit more here, and Snap. Here we've got the buy point through this pivot right here, and overall their market pulse is, their current outlook is a confirmed uptrend with 5 distribution days on the S&P 500 and 2 on the NASDAQ. You've got some leaders up in volume. NVIDIA has been super strong. DocuSign looks amazing. Let's actually take a look at that chart right here, and you can see very strong action on the weekly, and going to a daily, a lot of demand for the stock. Look at that volume coming in and follow through after that earnings gap up, that power earnings gap up. So that is DocuSign, looks pretty strong. And looking at the Wish blog, the current GMI signal is green, and the current GMI score is a 6 out of 6 on Friday. And speaking of Dr. Wish, if you haven't yet watched his presentation from the Traderline conference on Saturday, go ahead and check that out. The link will be popping up right now as well as in the description. It's really worth it. And just in general, all the guest speakers so far have been fantastic. Definitely worth your time if you want to do a little bit of studying over the weekend. Go ahead and check that out. There's a ton of material. And today, when I'll be posting that, we'll be live, I believe, with the second half ending really strongly. Joe Fahmy, Matt Caruso, Arusha Paris, as well as Charles Harris and Alpha Charts. So a very great presentation we've got planned. And yeah, go ahead and check that out if you haven't yet. The link will be popping up right now. And with that said, thanks so much for watching. My overall stock market outlook is a confirmed uptrend, but we may be a little bit extended, short-term extended at this point, and I wouldn't mind a pullback in the overall market, and we'll see what that brings. So with that said, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed, go ahead and leave a like down below and subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I'll see you guys in future videos. Thanks.